Welcome back. We continue our conversation with Gwen Graham, who is seeking the Democratic nomination for governor. All right, I want to turn to a topic, because let me just talk about it broadly first. There's a view that you are too conservative to win a Democratic primary, that your votes that you took in the legislature, like on the Keystone XL pipeline, other votes that you've taken, that you're too far to the right in terms of the Democratic Party. How would you address that?
What I'm committed to doing is looking at each issue and voting as I believe is in the best interest of my district at the time or the state of Florida. That's my commitment to Floridians. I think Floridians are tired of labels. If you want to label me as someone who's pro-public education. Label me as someone who's going to fight for our environment. Label me as someone who's actually going to work to make sure that every Floridian is able to have a job, that they are able to go to work, make a decent pay, and then not have to figure, when am I going to my next job? So if you want to label me in that way. All
right. In the House, you voted for harsher restrictions against Syrian refugees trying to relocate to the United States. At the same time, Governor Scott opposed resettling Syrian refugees in Florida, even though he really had no control of it. As governor, would you also oppose Syrian refugees moving into Florida?
You know, I'm the daughter, a granddaughter of a Syrian refugee. I don't know if you knew that or not. My grandfather was born in what it was then Syria, now Lebanon. So this issue is very near and dear to my heart. I would not be here if we did not accept refugees into our country.
So is that a yes, you would allow Syrian refugees?
I would work to make sure that we had an immigration policy in Florida, as much as Florida can control it, because it is a federal issue, to make sure that we are accepting those that come to our country seeking an opportunity that my family was provided.
All right. I want to draw another parallel between you and Governor Scott. Aramis Ayala, the prosecutor in Orlando, Governor Scott has repeatedly taken cases away from her because she's refused, she's the prosecutor there, to seek the death penalty.
Right.
Was Governor Scott correct in taking those cases away? And as governor, would you continue to take cases away from her if she refused to apply the death penalty?
I believe that our criminal justice system is in desperate need of reform. We need to look at equality. We need to make sure that we're providing fair representation to anybody that enters our justice system. The reality is the death penalty is the most challenging, pressing, heart-wrenching decision that a governor has to make. As governor, I'm going to make sure that everybody who is on death row has had a fair trial, that all the evidence has been considered, and if I face that difficult choice and I feel that everything has been done in advance, then that is the law of Florida. But I also will, and I don't know if you know this.
So you agree that Governor Scott made the right decision in removing those cases from her?
I think that we need to be looking at our criminal justice system in a complete and total way. And one of those ways that you do that is from the minute someone enters into the criminal system, the justice system, until they're facing penalty, the death penalty being the ultimate, we need to make sure that we're being fair. We need to make sure that we're considering all the evidence. And when you're facing the decision as governor,
I'll ask you a third time.
Death penalty,
was the governor right in removing those cases?
Again, I think that what's important is that our death penalty process is fair, and that our death penalty process also, at the end of this, you know, my father was the last governor to grant clemency, and clemency is part of the total process. So let's make sure that our criminal justice system.
I want to get to a couple issues. Let's see if we can do this. I think I know where you're at, but are you in favor of restoration of civil rights?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about guns now for a second. What is your position when it comes to guns? There are a number of bills in the legislature that are pending that probably won't even pass, but if they were and were to make it to your desk, for instance, bump stocks, the device that allows automatic gunfire on semi-automatic weapons, would you ban those?
Yes. I mean, I think common sense gun safety is not something that most gun owners are against.
Closing the gun show loophole?
Yes. Common sense gun safety laws is not something that most gun owners are against. And I think this has become, unfortunately, a politicalization of the NRA.
How far would you go? Would you seek a ban on automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons here in Florida?
Absolutely. What's the point of automatic weapons? Nothing other than killing. Look, I come from a hunting culture. We live in North Florida where there's a lot of hunters. Hunters don't need automatic weapons. They're only made to extract carnage. I was working at the school district the day after Sandy Hook, and I went to an elementary school to just be there as a presence. And Jim, I counted, and this affects me so much today. I counted 20 little backpacks on 20 little children. And I thought about what had happened the day before. My husband is in law enforcement. I understand the peace that having a gun brings to some, but I also know that we have got to get to a place where we can work together for common sense gun safety legislation. And I believe that we need to put this in the hands of law enforcement officers across the state. I had a sheriff tell me in North Florida that he could not keep guns out of the hands of someone that wanted to do harm to his own family. It's time to stop this.
There's a lot more to discuss. I'll have you back. We're going to have a lot more conversations, I'm sure. It's over.
Jim, I'm so sad.
Well, you'll come back. What can I say?
I will.
All right.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Up next, former DNC Chair Donna Brazile.